I call the Honourable the Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, that was
for
10
Finance.
minutes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. That was well. If there were lies spoken, they were certainly spoken in the last 6 years of the Labor government. There was certainly a lot of lies spoken then, and we just heard 10 minutes of book reviews. Mind you, on the day when the Prime Minister actually launched Paul Kelly's Triumph and Demise, the broken promise of a Labor generation, where we discovered in that book how dysfunctional, how disorderly was the Labor government under the Rudd years. We heard some sitcom from the opposition leader, who, quite frankly, is not fit to lead the Labor Party. But we heard some mirth and merriment from him. We need to be serious about this, though, and we also heard some spiteful allegations about what we're doing, and we're getting on. We're getting on with the job of fixing. I'll come to you later. Labor are the ones who have not listened to the Australian people. They didn't listen when they were voted out of office, and they're not listening now. It was a good visit to Wagga. I hear the member for McMahon interjecting. Well, I'll go straight to your Wagga Wagga visit. Now, in his regular Friday column in Wagga Wagga's The Daily Advertiser, the respected newspaperman Graham Gorrell talked of his attendance at Labor's annual Eddie Graham Memorial Dinner the previous Saturday, which the guest speaker was none other than the member for McMahon. The Honourable Edgar Hugh Graham was the Labor state member for Wagga Wagga from 1941 until his death at age 60, far too young, in 1957. He was known affectionately as the Minister for Wagga Wagga, if you weren't aware of that, for all his good work for the city. And he served as Agriculture Minister in the New South Wales Parliament for nearly 12.5 years. He was a good man, he was a good MP, he was a Labor MP, I acknowledge that. Guest Speaker, as I said, was the Federal Shadow Treasurer, the world's worst Immigration Minister, under whose watch more unauthorised arrivals came to Australia than ever before, and now he's equally as bad in his current opposition portfolio. Now, Mr Gorrell referred in his piece to a recent letter to the Sydney Morning Herald from Michael Barnacote, who wrote, and I quote, "Labor should stop wasting its breath bagging the government and start building its own credibility by telling me how it will solve the problems of this country and give me something to vote for." It's fair enough. He will be waiting a while, a good long while. Now, Mr Gorrell added, one reason I went to the Graham dinner last Saturday was because Bowen was going to give us his version of what was in store for regional Australia under a Labor government. Well, Graham Gorrell didn't think it was a good speech, member for McMahon, but he writes, "We didn't get that. As for news about more dams, irrigation areas, transport systems, port developments, air and sea, and a real vision for regional Australia, both inland and coastal, nothing." Nothing, member for McMahon. And Gorrell writes, Bowen missed his opportunity. Bowen missed his opportunity. And let me tell you, Graham Gorrell is fairly impartial when it comes to this. But I'll now talk about Sharon Gordon. Now, Sharon Gordon is an assistant teacher's aide at Area Park Preschool. Now, her husband Ian is a farmhand. They've got 5 kids. They've got 5 grandkids. They've got 1 on the way. They are what we'd call Middle Australia. And Sharon writes to me in an email. You probably see them anyway, but I just thought I'd send you a copy of one of Labor's emails we received. And I'm sorry I responded, but I'm really getting so wild when I open them. I couldn't help myself yesterday. We would get a new one, I suppose, once a week. Same tone, and I don't do negativity. Doesn't matter which party. And she's just fed up with Labor. She's fed up with getting no vision from Labor. She's just fed up. She's like so many people in Middle Australia. And I'll read her email back to the member for Watson, which reads in part, "I reply to you not from my position at the area," but he's listening. He's listening, which is what Australia has stopped doing with you people. Now, just listen and give me some respect. "I reply to you not from my position at the Area Park Preschool, but as a voter who lives in rural New South Wales and has to sort through our countless emails. We've received many of your Labor emails and I'm completely sick of them. If you cannot simply tell me what you are doing and accomplishing in a positive manner without all the rubbish about the Liberal Party, please cease and desist and remove our preschool from your email listing. Letters like the one below do as a party no favours. It makes you look small, petty and childish." She could be talking about the member for McMahon, but she's talking about the entire Labor Party. "Do you not understand that this isn't what Australia wants? We want leaders, not bickering children, which is what you look like with this sort of crap." This is Sharon Gordon speaking. let me just remind you, while you deride the government, you lost the election, remember? Good point. I walk out of my office every day and I look over to our central school at the $800,000 monstrosity of a library that is no bigger than a one-bedroom flat and should have cost no more than $300,000 at worst, and was built by no local builders at all except one who got to be the foreman. And I think to myself, you have no right to talk about another party doing a bad job because, sunshine, we're in this mess because of all the money you wasted. Anyway, I would appreciate it if you could either send us productive and informative emails or remove us from your list. A very annoyed voter. And Sharon Gordon is like many annoyed voters, right throughout Middle Australia, right throughout Australia indeed. Now, the Prime Minister said today that this is a building and a saving budget. He's right, of course. That we heard the Treasurer in question time say it's a budget about living within our means. Now, Labor left us with a mess, a huge mess. Labor inherited the best set of figures when it took office in 2007, and it left us with the worst economic mess when it was voted out, kicked out, punted on September 7, 2013. We heard the Treasurer today talk about not just spruik, not just come to Wagga Wagga and talk about nothing, but spruik about jobs growth 3 times that which Labor achieved in its last 12 months. 15,000 new jobs each and every month this year. 15,000 jobs. That's getting on with the job of fixing the debt and deficit and economic malaise that Labor left not us with, not us as a government, but us as a nation. Now, we have a plan for getting the nation's finances back on track. We didn't create the problem, but we were elected to fix it. We heard the opposition leader talk about that we have no mandate. Well, let me remind him that we do, because we were elected on the 7th of September last year to govern this country. We were elected to fix the mess, the 6 years of economic discrepancies, the economic mess, the economic malaise that Labor left us with, that left our nation with. And we could squib it, but we're not going to. And the budget does contain some tough measures. It's had to, because you don't get in the sort of debt problem that we are in without then having to make some tough calls indeed to fix it. We understand that Australians are doing it tough in many places, but there is nothing fair about forcing future generations to pay for the debt and deficit legacy that Labor left us with. That's why we're talking in detail with senators to get Labor's mess cleaned up. When they came to office, as I say, Labor inherited a surplus of $20 billion, no net debt, and $45 billion in the bank, and they wasted it. And there are so many areas, so many portfolio areas, not least of which was immigration under the worst immigration minister in history, sitting opposite the member for McCormack. But we have a plan to get Australia working, because the best form of welfare is a job. We want Australia to be working if they can, Australians to be working if they can, preferably for a wage, not for the dole. And that's why we're reinvigorating work for the dole. And I want to commend the good work being done in this area by the Assistant Minister for Employment, the member for Cowper, in this particular area. It's important work that we have underway through 18 pilot areas, which are providing valuable lessons to inform to get the national rollout of the program from 1 July 2015. It's happening. It's underway, thanks to good work by the member for Cowper. The 18 selected locations have high unemployment, a soft labour market and clear opportunities to address local needs. We all know that politics is all about local. We all need to understand that when we go into our local areas and we listen to people, and we on this side are listening to people. We listen to them each and every day. We're out in shopping centres, at sporting venues, and doing all those sorts of things and listening. And they're telling us that, you know, we appreciate that it's tough. We do appreciate that it's tough, but we realise, we acknowledge, and we know that you've got the mandate to get the job done, and we've got every confidence in you. We heard from the Treasurer in question time today talking about the biggest infrastructure program in Australia's history, and that's getting underway thanks to the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister at the table, the member for Mayo. They're getting on with the job of building the biggest infrastructure program in Australia's history. The $300 million in the Bridges Renewal Program. I had a meeting at Carrathool in my electorate last week. They're hopeful of getting some money, some funding, Deputy Speaker, for that particular program. We're rolling out, and I can see the Paul Fletcher there, who's helping the $100 million rollout for the fixing black spot programs in mobile areas, which are so crucial to regional Australia. Something that was ignored by Labor for 6 long years. We have a plan to secure the future of higher education in Australia, and we heard from the Minister for Education in Parliament today about the good initiatives that we're doing there. Labor are the ones, Deputy Speaker, who are not listening. They didn't listen in government. They just ignored the will of the people. They're totally oblivious to the fact that they lost the election last September. They aren't listening in opposition, and history is going to judge them very harshly, as it should, because of that. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.